In the vast frozen expanse of the Southern Ocean, a young penguin lived with its colony, nestled against the icy shores of Antarctica. Life here was harsh, cold, and relentless, but for the penguin, it was home. Each day, it swam in the frigid waters, hunted for fish, and huddled together with its colony for warmth. It had never known anything else, and it was content with the rhythm of the seasons and the routines of life on the frozen continent. However, one fateful day something changed. A storm, one unlike any the colony had seen in years, swept through the region, changing everything. The penguin had been swimming in the open waters, diving for food, when the winds picked up and the seas began to churn violently. The waves crashed around it, and before it knew it, the young penguin had been swept away from the safety of its colony. The storm was merciless, and despite the penguin's best efforts, the forces of nature were too powerful to resist. For days, the penguin was tossed around by the fierce currents. It had no way of knowing where it was going or how far it had been taken. All it could do was keep its head above water and hope that somehow it would find its way back to the familiar shores of its colony. But as the storm raged on, the penguin grew weaker. Exhausted and disoriented, it struggled to stay afloat, losing track of the direction it had been traveling. The storm eventually passed, but by then, the penguin had been carried far from its home. It had no way of knowing that it was now hundreds, even thousands, of miles away from the familiar ice floes of Antarctica. The penguin, still fighting to survive, began to realize it was completely alone in an unfamiliar environment. The water temperatures were warmer than what it was used to, and the ocean was no longer filled with the species of fish it was accustomed to hunting. Everything felt different. As the penguin struggled to survive, the days turned into weeks. Somehow, it managed to find small fish to eat, though they were not as abundant as the ones it had known back home. Each day it grew weaker, but it never gave up. It was a survivor, and it clung to life with a fierce determination. One day, after what felt like an eternity of drifting in the open ocean, the penguin saw something on the horizon. At first it thought it was just a mirage, a trick of the light. But as it got closer, the penguin realized it was an island, a small patch of land in the middle of the vast ocean. Desperate for rest and food, it swam toward the island, not knowing what to expect, but with a glimmer of hope that perhaps it had found safety. The penguin pulled itself onto the beach of the small island, its legs trembling with exhaustion. It was a place it had never seen before, an environment unlike the icy shores of Antarctica. The air was warmer, and the vegetation was lush and green. It was far from the harsh, frozen tundra the penguin had known, but for now, it was a refuge from the relentless sea. The island was part of New Zealand, a place that the penguin had never encountered before. It was far from the penguin's natural habitat, and yet, this was where its journey had brought it. The penguin was now stranded, far from the frozen seas of the South Pole, and no one could explain how it had ended up so far from home. As the days passed, the penguin began to regain some strength. It was not used to this warmer climate, and it struggled to find food, but it was resourceful. Local fishermen spotted the penguin on the shore, and they were initially stunned. Penguins were not a common sight on New Zealand's beaches, and they knew that something was unusual about this bird. Concerned for the penguin's safety, the fishermen contacted a local wildlife rescue organization. Within hours, a team of experts arrived to assess the situation. They could hardly believe what they were seeing: a penguin, far from its natural home, stranded on a beach halfway across the world. This was not just any penguin, this was a rare sight, one that would spark a global interest. The wildlife experts carefully examined the penguin. Despite its exhaustion, it appeared to be in relatively good health. It had some scratches and bruises from its long journey, but it had managed to survive against all odds. However, it was clear that something extraordinary had happened. This penguin had somehow crossed vast oceans and migrated across borders, defying everything experts knew about penguin migration patterns. The first question that came to mind was, how did it get here? Penguins, particularly the species to which this bird belonged, Udiptula minor, or the little blue penguin, were not known to travel such distances. These penguins are usually confined to the colder waters of the Southern Ocean and the coasts of New Zealand and Australia. They had never been observed migrating to such far-off lands. So, what had happened to this particular penguin? To answer this, the wildlife team began to investigate. They examined the penguin's feathers, its diet, and the conditions it had endured during its time at sea. One of the first things they learned was that the penguin had been swept off course by an unprecedented storm. Satellite data from the time of the storm revealed that a powerful low-pressure system had formed over the Southern Ocean. This storm was particularly violent and had caused significant disruption to ocean currents, sweeping marine life, including the penguin, into unfamiliar waters. Incredibly, the penguin had managed to survive despite being so far from its natural environment. The fact that it had found its way to New Zealand's shores was nothing short of miraculous. It had endured the storm, navigated through unknown waters, and reached a safe haven where it could recover. But the mystery didn't end there. Scientists now began to look into the penguin's survival tactics. How had it managed to find food so far from home? What had allowed it to thrive in warmer waters? Further research revealed that, although the penguin was far from its native habitat, it had managed to adapt. It had been feeding on species of fish that were not typically found in colder waters, but could survive in the warmer currents it had found itself in. The penguin's ability to adapt and survive in unfamiliar waters fascinated experts. It was a testament to the resilience of the animal, but it also raised important questions about how animals might be forced to adapt as climate change continues to alter the environment. As the penguin's story spread, it became more than just a tale of survival. It was a symbol of the challenges that animals face in a changing world. Over time, the penguin regained its strength and became a symbol of hope and endurance. It was carefully monitored by the wildlife team, and eventually, it was deemed healthy enough to be released back into the wild. But before it was set free, the penguin's remarkable journey had captured the attention of people all over the world. News outlets, environmental organizations, and researchers hailed the penguin as a symbol of perseverance and resilience. Its story reminded people of the incredible challenges animals face in a world that is rapidly changing, and it underscored the importance of protecting the natural habitats that these animals depend on for survival. The penguin's journey also sparked important conversations about climate change and how it affects wildlife. The ocean currents that had carried the penguin so far from home were themselves changing due to shifts in the global climate. This event was just one example of how the world's ecosystems are being impacted by environmental changes. Researchers began to study the penguin's migration as part of a larger effort to understand how animals are coping with these changes. Months later, the penguin was released back into the wild, swimming toward the familiar icy waters of Antarctica. It had come full circle, returning home after an extraordinary adventure. Its journey, which had begun as a terrifying struggle for survival, had ended as a testament to the power of resilience, the strength of nature, and the mysteries that still remain in the animal world. Conclusion of the story: a journey of resilience and hope. The journey of this lost penguin is far more than just a remarkable tale of survival. It's a powerful reminder of the resilience found within nature and the importance of understanding the world we share with other creatures. From being swept away by a violent storm to crossing oceans and finding an entirely new home, this penguin's story challenges the limits of what we know about animal behavior and migration. But the true lesson lies in its ability to adapt and endure. In the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, it didn't give up. It found new ways to survive, adjusted to an unfamiliar environment, and overcame every challenge with an unwavering determination to stay alive. Nature's ability to adapt is not just a testament to the penguin's strength, but also a reminder of the incredible adaptability and resilience that exist within all living things. As we witness how this penguin's journey brought it across borders, let it also serve as a reminder that the borders between us and the rest of the world are not as firm as they may seem. The climate is shifting, the world is changing, and the challenges our wildlife faces are greater than ever. This penguin's survival wasn't just about crossing physical boundaries. It also symbolizes the need for us to break down the barriers of ignorance and inaction when it comes to protecting the environment and our ecosystems. Let this story inspire us to care more deeply about the natural world, to take action where we can, and to recognize that every creature, no matter how small or far from home, has a role in the delicate balance of our planet. The penguin's journey may have been extraordinary, but it's also a wake-up call for all of us to reflect on how we can help preserve the beauty and wonder of the world for future generations. The lost penguin had crossed borders, both literal and metaphorical, and in doing so, it had solved a wildlife mystery that would be remembered for years to come. Its story had captured hearts, sparked discussions, and inspired people to think more deeply about the world around them and the creatures that share it. In the end, we're all connected, and as this penguin story shows, sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places. So let's carry the spirit of resilience, hope, and respect for nature in everything we do, and remember, if a lost penguin can find its way home, so too can we find our way to a better, more sustainable world.